Some degree of change is almost certain to happen in just about any organization, but in some cases, change is a significant undertaking. So, in this video, we'll take a look at handling a more complex infrastructural change, along with some methods and approaches for dealing with it. Now, exactly what type of change is occurring will clearly depend on the situation, but common examples include a redesign of your network segmentation, server migrations that will affect many different apps and services, or configuring data center failover for improved business continuity. So, for any significant change, some of the key concerns will often include interdependency mapping. In other words, how a change to one aspect of the environment affects any others, which can in turn affect others, and so on down the line. Determining the entire chain reaction can certainly be difficult in some cases. Then you'll need to consider testing your changes and the impact they might have on your various environments, such as development, staging, and production, and of course, how long it will take to fully implement the change and what kind of resource availability you'll have, including human resources as well as technological, which of course will also directly impact how long it will take because if you're understaffed and under provisioned, clearly the project will take longer to complete. So, to begin dealing with complex changes, a good approach is to break things down into logical phases, such as pre checks for the necessary resources and ensuring that regular backups are in place for any systems that will be affected, followed by the initial deployment and testing phases, followed by the full rollout phase. During each phase, you can then record the successes and failures that have been encountered, identify where you might be able to create rollback checkpoints so that certain changes can be undone, document which technicians were responsible for particular tasks, and visualize your progress by creating Gantt or timeline charts, checklists, and or workflow maps. Any kind of change, however, can also involve some level of risk, so it stands to reason that the larger and more complex the change, the greater the risk. So, part of the change management process should include performing a risk analysis and preparing a contingency plan in the event that something might fail. The risk assessment should identify which systems or components are at the highest risk and what kind of recovery time objective is in place if a recovery needs to be invoked, and or if there are any alternate workflows that can be attempted. The contingency plan should identify aspects such as secondary paths for networking, manual overrides for automated processes or scripts that can restore components to their previous state, and a communication strategy to update all concerned parties should any outages occur. Any change, large or small, should also involve securing approvals and communicating the scope of the changes, so be sure to obtain final sign-offs from your change advisory board, if there is one, or at least the system and or application owners, as well as your information security teams if any sensitive systems or data will be affected. As far as user communication is concerned, try to announce any maintenance windows as early as possible so that all users are aware of when they'll be occurring, and the expected impact should also be clearly stated so that users understand what is being done and how it might affect their regular operations. And also try to create some explanatory documentation such as frequently asked questions and or ensure that users are aware of who they can contact for support if and when it's needed as the changes get implemented. Lastly, the final stages of major changes should include verification and documentation. Verification would involve confirming the success of your project by testing performance, ensuring access is available, and reviewing logs. You might also solicit feedback from your users to see how they feel about the new configuration and recheck any alerting or monitoring systems you have to determine if issues have arisen. And documentation should include the final architecture diagram of what is now in place, post-change incident logs and lessons learned along the way, plus any applicable updates to your standard operating procedures or automation runbooks. In short, when it comes to major and or complex changes, Preparation and planning are certainly among your best tools, but you still have to execute and keep everything on track during the process. So be sure to keep these and other considerations in mind when it comes to implementing large scale changes in your environment.